today's ALA Solution Series webcast, 6 Key Benefits of Integrating Document Management with Your Practice Management System. I'd like to go ahead and thank today's sponsor, NetDocuments. NetDocuments is #1 trusted intelligent platform where legal professionals do their best work. I'm so excited to be joined here today with Nancy Griffin, partner of 3545 Consulting, Michelle Spencer, legal technology strategist at NetDocuments, and Jake Evans, solutions expert team lead at NetDocuments. Welcome, Nancy, Michelle, and Jake. We look forward to hearing all about what you have to share with us today. So, Michelle, you can go ahead and take it from here.
All right. Thanks for being here, everybody. We're really excited to share this information with you today. So welcome, and thanks, Joy, for kicking us off. We've already introduced ourselves, so there we are again for you. So we wanted to start by looking at what your ideal technology stack would be, because it can be really helpful to think in terms of what technology functions you need to run your practice and understand how those pieces work together. So, of course, first off is back office. That's the foundation of your business. It includes your office and trust accounting, timekeeping, billing, payment processing. And then you're going to need tools for project and task management. And of course, if you do litigation or IP, you may also need docketing software as well. And then communication tools. So things like email, Slack, Teams, client portals, and of course, document management. Um, and to clarify, the basics of the bottom three are generally handled by your Office productivity suite, like Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace. But these are ripe for improvements due to the specific needs of lawyers and how important document-based workflows are to your practice. So if you want to really improve the way that your practice is performing, these areas are usually the ones that are most ripe for improvement because these are where your day-to-day workflows reside. So we'll talk more about that in just a bit. Want to finish out our wheel here. Marketing and web presence, of course, is important to keep your pipeline of business flowing. And then at the core is practice management software. That's kind of your central hub and generally will connect to most of your other platforms. And practice management platforms are great at breaking down silos and smoothing out workflows. However, while they do some of the other functions very well, they don't do everything necessarily at the level that you need, and that can sometimes become problematic, especially as you grow. And then one final piece of the puzzle, layered over the top of all of these functions, is the now, of course, ever-present AI. And we wanted to kind of show you the best technology supports getting your work done in the best way possible with the least friction. So this is kind of how the combination of your practice management system and a document management system like NetDocuments is going to cover all of your bases. Back office, of course, would be covered generally by your practice management system. Project and task management is going to be kind of included in both. And then communication tools also featured in both platforms. Document management, of course, generally covered by NetDocuments, with some of your marketing and web presence covered by your practice management system. So we want to take a closer look at what all you're going to get when you combine the robust functions within your practice management system and NetDocuments together. So I'm going to turn it over to Nancy to talk a little bit more about that.
Thanks, Michelle. With my over 30-year career, I have learned a lot about practice management. At 3545, it's something that we specialize in, and we work with a variety of different programs. And I feel the importance, obviously, of what it does for a law firm is incredible. However, what I always like to say is the livelihood of the firm belongs in the document management system. So really where those documents are is no matter what the area of practice, that's where the livelihood of the firm belongs. So it's really important to make sure that you have one system of record where all of the documents, whether they're emails, whether they're documents that are being shared with outside parties, whether they are internal documents or maybe even documents that you create and assemble or that you work with as far as an AI solution, everything should be in one central location and yet connected to the practice management solution to make it that one system of record for you. And it should have easy access. You've got to be able to get to the information with just a single click in order to be able to find and locate a document with a minimal number of clicks, because that's where the highest level of frustration comes about for legal professionals, is when they can't get to the documents that represent the work product of what they're doing for their individual clients. It's not only frustrating, but it is definitely time consuming, and time is money. It means that's time that can't be spent on other clients and working on other legal issues. So it goes without saying that faster searches are incredible. There are so many different ways to store and save documents, and we often think it's much faster to be able to click on a file folder structure or a file system in order to find documents. But in reality, those that have been exposed to a document management system and those that haven't find that the searching capability of a true DMS is incredible, and it changes the way they practice on a daily basis. And then we talk about the document workflow. What happens in the life cycle of working with a document? Just a single document as it is never going to be the final work product of what a client receives. So being able to create workflows that incorporate the concept of versioning and being able to save and store documents, share documents with outside parties, all within the same system is incredibly important. Being able to move a document from one person to another in order to review it. All of those aspects are something that really streamline the process in in workflow for a law firm. One-click access to both systems. One of the things that people often think is that if you have both a document management system and a practice management system, that you're going to have two programs open all the time. But the practice management solutions have realized that in order to truly give a one seamless integration, that NetDocuments, being the workhorse for the documents themselves, needs to be incorporated into the program itself. So that one-click feeling of being inside a practice management solution and accessing your documents is something critical and definitely something taken into consideration by all the major practice management solution vendors. And then there's AI and automation. Being able to actually use and harness AI in order to incorporate it into the daily workflow process, automating the documents to be able to take templates that are scattered here and there, or maybe that are currently in an automation tool, and bring them into NetDocuments, access them through the practice management solution, maybe even pulling the information directly out of the practice management solution, and then incorporating it with AI is just a whole burst of new energy for the law firm.
Great. So we're going to dive into each of these topics. And Nancy, you're going to take our first one for us.
Thanks, Michelle. Certainly, one secure system of record is the critical element, and I underscore and capitalize, and it should have bright lights and flashing lights around it. Secure system. When you know that you can work with a system and access your documents anywhere, anytime, securely, then you're talking about net documents. Being able to share them securely, being able to work with them securely, knowing that client confidentiality is a number one concern for net documents and certainly for the law firm. That is a critical element.
But that doesn't mean you have to sacrifice ease of use.
Absolutely not, Michelle. Being able to navigate the system should be as seamless and as natural to you as working with a file system. However, it has certain key elements that NetDocuments brings to the table that really do give you a quicker access to those documents. And unquestionably, that is key when you're working with a practice management solution as well. So we have customized workspaces, places where the client and the matter come together into a document workspace where you can actually work with those individual documents, bringing in the templates, working with the templates as well. All of those aspects really make the navigation much easier inside of the document management system, hence the practice management solution.
And I really love our customizable homepage and the fact that it's shareable too. That really helps people a lot with their day-to-day navigation for sure.
And many of the practice management solutions will incorporate that home page or allow you to navigate to that home page. So regardless of where you are in the actual product, you're able to see it.
Awesome. And
The
then, of
net
course,
Oh, yes, email. This is where we definitely change the game as far as net documents is concerned. Sometimes practice management solutions will have ways to save email to the solution. Unfortunately, in the vast majority of cases, it's not the actual email itself, but it is a replica of the email. Whereas in NetDocuments, when we're saving email, we're saving the original email in its MSG format so it can be produced and you can respond to it, you can work with that, you can work with the attachments. You can have all of that available to you. But you'll notice in the highlighted area that we have a very familiar look and feel of being able to click into where you want to go to save that email. Not the only way to save your email, but one way to do so that is file system incorporated.
yep.
Now, if you're not a file system person and you like your folders, well, then you're certainly capable of mapping your folders so that you can use the pre-existing folders and synchronize up to NetDocuments those emails. Or you can use that navigation panel that we saw on the left-hand side in the previous slide, or you can use a little bit of help with the predictive panel that's over on the right-hand side that's showing now. This is where NetDocuments actually looks at the content of your email and starts to predict where it should be filed, but not just what you're doing. It also incorporates what other team members are doing so that its predictive capability increases with the use of the product. If you choose to, then with a click of a button over on the right-hand side, you've filed your email, saved and preserved the attachments that are associated with it, and you have a fully respondable, fully producible email that you can work with in the future.
Yeah, and I love that it dedupes and has an indicator so that everybody knows which file has been or which emails have already been filed. So you don't get a bunch of extra junk in your system.
It's a huge element, Michelle, to be able to have the deduplication and to make sure then that if a staff member is actually saving that email, I will know that I don't have to worry about its security. I know that it's already stored in NetDocuments and I can simply click and go on to my next email. Email management is the #1 complaint of legal professionals. They're just burdened
Drowning.
by, oh my gosh, yes, with so many emails that they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Being able to actually work with the email that is important, get the gist of those that they need to be notified about, but not being concerned about losing that email or losing track of that email is just a critical element for successful email management in the law firm.
And extends to sending as well.
Yes, indeed. And this is another huge factor that when you're sending the email, you want to be able to record that location for where that email needs to be stored. So the sending and the receiving is critically important. The other piece that is so unique to NetDocuments and a very critical element is the fact that it can do conversation filing. If you've gone to the effort to file an original document or an original email, then as you're getting response back and forth and as you're actually responding to those emails, you want to make sure that the whole thread is captured. By turning on that conversation filing, that will definitely happen. But as you're sending out the email, you can send the email itself with an attachment if you'd like, or you can add an attachment link to your email. This is especially helpful if you're sending, whether you're sending it internally or externally, to be able to not bloat your email box itself, but to also give access to, if you choose, the most current version of the document. So if Michelle and I are working on a document today, this morning, and later this afternoon, or we decide that we're going to share it with Jake, and then later this afternoon, before Jake actually opens the email, Michelle decides to make a few changes to it. If she does so, and then Jake receives it as an internal party, he's going to always have the most current copy. If Jake's is an external party, then Michelle has the choice as to whether she wants him to have the updates or for him not to have the updates. Always being secured, and if Jake is external, making sure that she can send it securely with a password.
Exactly. And then I know that one of our most favorite features, of
Mm.
course, is how we handle attachments.
Absolutely. When we're sending attachments and you want to send the actual document itself, there's a couple of elements about the documents that is a bit troubling. Number one, if you have several documents, you may want to be able to send those individual documents and perhaps change the name of the document a bit so that it's more readable for the recipient. Well, that can definitely be done, or change the ordering of that particular email because maybe we want them in the order we choose as opposed to the order they come in when we select the documents. But the biggest issue is, do we want to send an open Word document to an outside party? Probably not. Do we want to stop and take the time to convert it to PDF before we send it? Probably not. Being able to select that over on the right-hand side with the click of a button and convert those documents to PDF before sending them out is awesome. A
Yep.
huge time saver.
Yeah, and I would dare say no practice management system really probably comes close to the email management tools that we have today.
No, you're absolutely right, Michelle. They may, at the very best, they may have the ability to save an email, but they don't have all of these individual elements. However, a lot of practice management solutions will have the ability to keep time or track time when you're in email
Right.
management. And that can continue to work. So you can still use the button for being able to use your timer and save your email to NetDocuments with all these phenomenal features and many more.
So yeah, it's kind of the best of both worlds. So
Mhm.
I want to know, Nancy, when do you think that a firm would get to the point where they would need to add a document management system to um, their tech stack?
Honestly, Michelle, it'd be easier to say when they wouldn't need to have a DMS because in reality, there's it has benefit for everyone from solo firms up to, of course, the M law firms being able to have that DMS. Any legal professional that is working with documents and needs to be able to streamline that workflow process really needs a formalized DMS. And I've heard from solos that, it changed my life to be able to have the email management. Since I working with a small staff, I really need to be able to have that. I can't rely on everybody else. But definitely, if you already have a legacy DMS, then you're not going to be satisfied with any of the practice management solutions when they have their file system programs to be able to allow you to save a document. They're really not truly a DMS. And so moving or downgrading is a huge efficiency loss when you already have a legacy DMS. And we find that people who make that attempt to downgrade, so to speak, are woefully disappointed with what they end up with. So definitely if you have a legacy DMS, then you need to keep a good DMS that's going to work effectively with your practice management solution.
That kind of goes to when I used to be training people. A lot of times, we would have mergers, or I would work with a small firm that had never used a document management system before. And I would always tell them, you're probably not going to like it for the first 30 days, maybe 60, depending on how averse to change you are, um, because it's not the way you're used to doing things and you're not in that flow. But I guarantee you, after that time period, if someone comes and suggests taking it away, you will fight them for it. I've heard it over and over from people. So yeah, definitely. If you've been used to one, going away from it, it's like, wait, what have you done to me? You've handicapped me. Um,
Exactly.
and then number of users.
Yes, definitely
I
over
think
10 users is a defining point for when a DMS is needed. When you're working with your individual documents and you have your own individual system, then not having a DMS is not perhaps as important. I would argue that it still is. But when you start to work with a group of attorneys and there's multiple different work styles, then it's very difficult to be able to share information, work with individual associates, and make sure that you have a good system of record. When you have net documents, you can streamline that process and put in some guidance as to how the system is going to be set up to make it really effective.
which I think goes perfectly with this next one,
Mm.
where if I've got people putting files on their desktop or, you know, all over the place.
Or I save my documents in this particular tree format, and then you save your documents in a different tree format. And then we have an associate that works for both of us, or we share another legal professional or a paralegal. All of a sudden, there's these two different systems, and efficiency is definitely lost. It doesn't mean that we can't have our own individual styles, Michelle. We can certainly do that within net documents, and we can certainly set things up the way we want to. But if there's overall compliance for the firm, then we know we have those documents saved and stored correctly. And the firm knows that if for any reason we have changes in personnel or a particular attorney leaves the firm, that we have that consistency of the documents that we're retaining.
And then I think, of course, obviously, if you've got over a million
Oh,
documents,
yeah.
you're getting into kind of chaos territory to manage without something.
No question about that. And then the remote capability of being able to work with the documents, although you may, from the practice management solution, have the access to the documents, you don't have it in the same way that you do from Net Documents. Being able to actually work with those documents and perform all the functions that you need to from a remote perspective is huge. But again, it gets back into the compliance and the security of accessing those documents when you're outside of the work environment, knowing that the documents are being encrypted, in use, at rest, all the time from Net Documents makes a huge difference. And that is definitely a relief factor for any working attorney.
For sure, for sure. So we're going to shift gears and talk about that easy access to everything that you need. So digital files in your system take the place of paper files in a lot of ways, and especially your practice management system. So your contact information, your calendar information, matter specific details, time and billing records, and so much more. Um, and when you integrate your practice management system and your document management system, then your documents and emails related to a matter are also as organized. They're easy to find, they're secure, as Nancy mentioned. Um, and having a native cloud platform allows people to work where they want, be it emails, documents, or their web browser. It's kind of all connected to that one system of record, but also available within your practice management system critically. So this is an example of a NetDocuments workspace, and it contains all of the documents and functions for a matter or a project. So everything from tasks to sets of documents to client collaboration spaces to apps that automate workflows, all that is in one place. And you can restrict access to just those people who need it. So if you need ethical walls and things like that. Additionally, matter templates can be created so that you always have the same set of folders or filters for similar matter types. But you can also add folders as needed. So if there is something that is specific to a matter that's slightly different, you can add additional folders. And then what's really nice is within your practice management system, your Matter workspace is tied to um, your document workspace in Net Documents for that easy one-click access that we talked about, and we'll show you in just a bit. And then finally, when working with in a list of documents, a quick right click is going to give you a customizable menu of functions for things like editing or viewing or sharing a file. And when a document is saved into Net Documents, it gets profiled with metadata like author, document type, client, matter, and practice area. And these and other system attributes, like who created the file and who last edited it, can be fully configurable, and they're all searchable with our advanced search. And a document list like this one can be sorted by those attributes, which are the column headings. And then the panel on the right can be opened for additional details and functions like the list of versions of a file. So we provide the ability to easily maintain numerous versions of documents when lawyers are doing multiple rounds of negotiations, but only one version is designated as the official version. So there's never that confusion about which one is the latest one that you sometimes have when you don't have a document management system.
And I would
Next.
say, Michelle,
Uh-huh.
that all of the things that you just mentioned are the very top list of distinguishing factors for why a DMS over a file
Yeah.
system. definitely being able to have that metadata and being able to have it automatically, as well as the historical trail of what's happened to the document, and the recovery of the document is critically important.
Definitely, definitely. And the next, of course, is meeting you where you work. So this is the NetDocument Save screen that appears within the M365 products, and the File Open screen is very similar. So the folder tree on the left allows you to easily navigate to the correct Matter workspace and folder. And it also includes a list of recent and favorite workspaces and locations. So you don't have to go poking through them manually, or kind of what I used to call the, digging to China through the 20 levels of folder structure that you might have. It's just quick and easy. All of your recent documents and locations are right there. And then for those using Teams, a Net Documents tab can be added to a Teams channel by using our chat link add-on. And this also enables file sharing within a chat, which is the screenshot on the right side there, which will have links to preview, view, or open a document really easily. And now we'll shift back over to Nancy to talk about searching.
Oh, yes. Find exactly what you need and quickly. So important to be able to get your fingers on the documents. There's nothing more than that feeling of panic when you can't find a document, or you can't find a precedent document that you'd like to be able to work with in order to complete a day's effort. So being able to locate documents is the key. And in order to be able to locate documents, the documents have to be OCR'd. And what that means basically is that it has to be text searchable. Not only do I want to find a document by its name, but I want to be able to find it by its content. And in a traditional file system, you're certainly not able to do that. So being able to find content that's inside a PDF or inside of a document is very, very important. But sometimes we want to be able to do a more detailed search itself. If I can do a Boolean search inside of a research tool, then why can't I do that inside of a DMS? Well, you most definitely can with NetDocuments. You're able to add in ands and nots and ors and find the location of a document that you're really, really looking for, or within a certain number of words. And new searching capability coming in the future as well for NetDocuments. So this particular picture of our homepage, once again, that homepage being the location of all of our favorite items. So if I wanted to make favorite workspaces, that is favorite matters, I certainly can. Or if I want to have favorite documents or collab spaces or anything else, I can. But you'll see at the top of the bar, I am looking at documents, recent, and I can find recent documents easily. That's located at the top of the bar, regardless of where I am in NetDocuments. So I can do it on my home page or from wherever I choose. Underneath that recents area, I can find a list of all of the documents that I've most recently worked with, or I can find the most recent areas that I've worked with as well, matters, workspaces that I've worked with. So I can find them, or I can find them by my favorites. Maybe I have so many favorites because I have a lot of favorites that they don't all fit on my screen, then I can certainly go to find a favorite from that area as well. And that will give me a quick way of locating where I've been to find a document. If, however, I'd like to get a little bit more sophisticated in my search, then we can go up to the search at the top of the screen. Now, by default, it's going to be looking for the content of what's inside or what's in the name of the document, but I can easily switch that so that it's looking for everything in the content of the document and find the name or the content of the document. But if I'd like to take it just one step further, then I can go into the more advanced search, which we'll see in just a minute. Navigation between one workspace and another is as easy as moving on my home page, or if I don't have my particular matter I'm looking for as a favorite, then I can click on that orange button over on the right-hand side, type in the first few letters or words or numbers of a matter, and it will take me to the workspace that way as well. Or I could look it up by client. So if I have my traditional way of looking for documents is to go to the client first and then to find the matter, it will automatically allow me to do so by filling in the client information. And then my advanced search. When we were at the search at the top of the screen, there were some ellipses to the right. And if I click on those ellipses, it will take me into this advanced search. The most important thing here is to recognize all the metadata that's being stored automatically by NetDocuments. You can certainly put tags and you can certainly put types and you can certainly put other pieces of information on the document itself, or you can simply file it into the correct folder. And when you do so, it will inherit that information. Things such as created by, sent by, or file extension are automatically determined by NetDocuments. And if I'm working with email, I would be able to find sender or find it by a CC or by any of the metadata that's on an email. By filling in the information here, I can fine-tune the search in order to locate the document that I really want. And you'll notice that over to the right-hand side, it's a little bit hard to read, but it is instructing me as to how I can actually perform a more advanced search with the terminology that I use. So Boolean logic is definitely available for me. And by searching everything, I'm going to be searching the content of the document for everything that's there.
And I love at the top, you can restrict it to, if you know you're looking for email, for example, or for documents, you can restrict it down to that too.
Absolutely.
And of course, next up,
Now, here is another huge differentiating factor for a true DMS, versioning and version control, and not just version control, because a lot of times, especially when you're looking at a file system that might be in a practice management, this is a big distinguishing factor as well. Here, what we're actually looking at are various different types of documents that are different versions. So notice that I may have started out with version 1 as a Word document, version 2 as a Word document. Now I have a PDF document, and then I switch back to the Word document. And that is very likely kind of the history of what would happen. Now, if I choose to, I don't have to save the versions, which is another distinguishing factor. In some of the practice management solutions, by virtue of the fact that you save the document, it automatically versions it. Well, that is a way of kind of backtracking to revive a version, but it's not really a true versioning system. This is a true versioning system where I get to choose what the next version is going to be, and then I get to determine the order of those versions. And as Michelle pointed out earlier, you can determine which is the official version as of this point in time. Even if I wanted to take the versioning one step further, there's subversioning that is available. So if I wanted to have subversioning for internal switching back and forth of the document and review of the document, and the final version or the major number versions as being those that are going outside, I can do that as well. Huge differentiator. Notice on the left-hand side, I can see all of the different versions of individual documents, and I can tell that the first couple of documents have only one version, and then I jump into 5 versions, 4 versions, etc. So you can tell just by looking at that list view how many versions you have included, and you can always get back to a prior version.
awesome. So let's talk about workflows, creating documents faster. So document templates make it possible to skip the rework of document formatting or kind of remembering where you saved a version. And this reduces frustration and increases your productivity. So when combined, practice management and document management software make it easy to leverage these templates to your advantage. So you can set up templates automatically, pull matter information in, ensure that documents get created even more quickly and in the best way each time. Um, so let's take a look at that a little closer. And we will cover, I saw a comment about AI integration. We'll talk about that at the end. So we want to give you a couple of common document workflows. So we'll start with the traditional transactional workflow, um, which is pretty heavy. So I'm pulling up copies of old documents. I have to find the right one. I have to um, do complex find and replace to change out information. Then I've got to go back and forth emailing with the client and other parties. I've got to pull out signature pages, send those over to the client. The client has to print and sign and scan and upload and email that back. And then those have to be reincorporated. And then at the end, I've got to manually organize all of those documents into my closing binder. So let's take a look at that same document workflow with the application of the tools that are in the NetDocuments platform. So first of all, I can use tasks to create a closing checklist with headers and placeholders for my documents. And I can create lists of tasks for collaboration and transparency with the entire team that might be working on that. And then with our pattern builder document and workflow automation, I can have my gold standard template turned into an app that I can use. And that way I know that I'm always getting the latest and greatest updated version with the latest legal standards for it. Um, and then if I'm using Teams, I can use ChatLink for my for chatting and sharing documents with my internal and external stakeholders securely. And then with our DocuSign integration, I can seamlessly send a document straight from NetDocuments out to DocuSign, and then it will come right back into NetDocuments when it has been electronically signed. And then finally, I'll be able to drop all of those final documents into a closing checklist and automatically generate my closing binder. And I can do multiple versions. I might need to do one version for the buyer, one for the seller. That's super easy to do just by checking off what I want to have included in that binder. And it'll create it as either a PDF or a zip file. So that is that same workflow with the NetDocuments tools. So now let's look at a litigation example. So a common workflow, of course, is electronic court filings. And so a lot of times this means that you're having to download documents to combine them into one document to be filed. Then you've got to upload that completed document to your e-filing provider, which then goes up to the court. And then you'll get usually a confirmation email back with a link or an attached file stamped copy. And then that has to get re-uploaded back to the system so that I know that I've got the file stamped copy quickly available. So it's a lot of uploading and downloading and copies of files all over the place. And so that can create opportunities for error and also information governance issues. You know, did that combined file that I filed get saved? Did the file stamp copy get saved? And all of that. So let's look at the same workflow using NetDocuments. First of all, with Set Builder, I can use Set Builder to actually combine the documents for my court filings within NetDocuments, and I can output them as a PDF or a zip. I can also use that to create pleading and discovery indices if I need to, with placeholders for things that can then have the document added once it's finalized. And I can use it to create trial and exhibit notebooks as well. And then tasks, I can create tasks for the team for full collaboration and transparency. And I can know when things are done and when they're still waiting on something. Um, and of course, never miss a deadline with Outlook alerts. And then Pattern Builder can automate the creation, so I can automatically create my case styles, have my pleading templates set up. And of course, chat link for collaboration with others. And then finally, I've got DocuSign for the electronic signature portion. And then also we integrate with most of the court filing services. Pacer Pro is just one of them, but we do integrate with multiple, where you simply right click and send it out from NetDocuments, and then the filed copy can come right back into NetDocuments. So you don't have all that emailing of copies and did the copy get saved and all of that that you have with other workflows. And so then I'll turn it back over to Nancy for a really quick run through of the one-click access with our practice management, because I know we're getting close to time here.
Sure. And this one is easy because essentially when you have a product that integrates with NetDocuments, you create a new matter, it's going to automatically create the new workspace for you, and the two will be connected. How will you visually see that? Well, we have some examples for you. There are a lot of different programs that integrate directly with NetDocuments. These are just a few that are listed here. And then how they do it, although it is somewhat unique to the individual vendor, the basic concept for most of them is embedding it directly into the product itself. So when you go to the product, you'll click on documents, and when you do so, you're actually able to see the documents themselves inside the matter. Or in this case, if you click on the ND button over on the left-hand side in Carrot Legal, you will be able to see the homepage of NetDocuments. Here's an example of what it looks like for the workspace itself in Clio. You'll see that the same concept in the other programs, where if I'm inside the actual matter itself, I can go to the NetDocuments tab and I'll see the same thing as if I open NetDocuments separately and apart from that in a browser window. And then here's an example with ZenCase, the SharePoint solution with practice management. And here you can see, again, I can actually see these NetDocuments documents. You'll see in blue above that where I can open in NetDocuments if I would like to. So if I do want to open it to a secondary screen, many of the products will allow me to do that directly from within, or just work with the documents while I'm here.
And we actually have a screen that kind of shows what the integration setup would look like within one of the programs as well.
So generally, you just point it to the correct cabinet where your matter documents are located, and then you're off and running.
And we're going to let Jake show us exactly what that will look like.
Okay, thank you. And I'll walk through some simple scenarios here. Share my screen first, but we will jump into my practice management system here. And it is meant to feel simple, point and click. Of course, opening up my matter screen, got some dashboard information there. Whatever file I open up in this system does create that NetDocuments matter file. So as I open and view, I have the details, uninvoiced fees, the expenses, all that information that is key to that matter. And right there is the option to pull up NetDocuments as the system of record for the documents themselves. Now you'll note the numbering systems, the names are a one-to-one match. So as you're tagging things, billing things, everything is universally the same. And then once within here, you do have all of those great DMS tools without ever leaving the screen. I can browse, I can open folders. I can also come in and run quick searches. I can go note, I need to find a file with a specific name in it. It quickly brings back those results. And then just as if it's on my computer, I click that file. It will actually notify and tell people that I'm actively working on this. And it is going to open in the appropriate software. Of course, this will open in Microsoft Word, where my edits, everything that I'm doing is captured. So as I go make small changes, make new versions, whatever it is that I'm working on, I'm just simply saving, and all that's communicating back to NetDocuments, which in turn is available in your practice management system. And then even if you draft new content, work on things, again, it's going to feel like this is all just right there on your device. I hit save. It says, hey, is this somewhere you've worked on recently? Of course, I've got a lot of options to browse. But if yes, I just simply point and say, yeah, drop this in the agreements folder for that matter that I was just in Caret, and it'll take and inherit the profile information, who's worked on this, client matter number, all those searchable fields are there ready to go. So you get quick access to your files, to the documents themselves, and everything is available there in the web. And then, of course, those AI tools, if I'm looking for some specific detail or information, I don't have to pull these out, move them to another system. I can check the box of the files that I want and say, let's ask AI. Let's let AI do the heavy lifting, read through these documents. Again, as your PDFs, your Word files hit there, they're indexed. If they need to be converted to be made searchable, that is done. And I don't have to be super specific. I can say one of these three files has the details on the indemnification clause. Give me a quick summary of the details on those. What circumstances lend to that, whatever it is that I'm looking for. AI right there in NetDocuments within my practice management system goes through, pulls out those details, and even comes back and says, right, this came from this specific document. Do you want to view that? Do you want to preview it? Do you want to open and review that? And all of that, again, is right there in Caret Legal. So as I go through my workflows, working on my documents, saving my emails, when I realize I should bill for all this time I've been spending researching, I can click right there. My time entries, my contacts, all of those details are right there in one place. And NetDocuments is everywhere you would need to access that. So if I need to view my dashboards, my shortcuts, my AI system, all of that can happen from a single pane of glass and integrate into the softwares that you know and use today.
That's great. And why do we care about that? Let's talk about that. So, reducing the toggle tax is something that our product and design teams have really prioritized over the last several years. There was a study that HBR did about how much time we waste going back and forth, and it really was astounding to me. So generally, we spend 11 seconds on a task, and then it takes us a couple of seconds to switch to the next task. Then we spend another 11 seconds before we spend another 2 seconds to switch over to the next task. And we do that 1,200 times per day. So you can see that all that switching back and forth adds up to really a good chunk of time. And so if you reach the end of the day exhausted and wondering what you actually accomplished, this is why. Basically, they said, basically how we work is itself a distraction. So anything we can do to reduce that helps. And I know we're getting close to time, but we did want to at least show you some of the benefits of when you layer AI and automation together on top of all of this. So we have over the years gone way beyond document storage by adding productivity tools and search capabilities, OCRing, and all of that. The addition of AI and automation has really changed the document management system forever. It's not just another box on the slide. It really has sparked entirely new experiences, and we call this the intelligent DMS. And we have three core principles. The first is bringing content, AI to your content, not taking your content to AI. And this gets back to that having a single system of record and also having a set of tools versus having multiple individual tools and the cost of all those tools, not to mention the disruption to your workflows. Second is having AI sit on top of your knowledge like a lens. So that's having those capabilities built into where your knowledge and expertise is within your documents. So instead of users looking for the answers, answers are able to find them. But then you have to be able to do something with that information. And that's where automation comes in. So turning those answers into action by weaving them into automated workflows. And so Jake briefly showed our legal AI assistant. So imagine the number of questions that a legal professional has every day where the answer is inside a document. So in a purchase agreement, is there a key man provision? What are the remedies upon breach? For employee contracts, what are the non-compete and non-solicit provisions in there? For litigation cases, what are the facts based on the witness testimony? And can you build a timeline from them or show me the discrepancies? For procurement contracts, can you compare the clauses that address data security? So without an assistant, a legal professional has to know what to search for, find the document, read it, and hopefully find the answer. But the legal AI assistant gives you an easy conversational interface that allows you to interact with multiple documents at a time. So first of all, you'll select your documents and ask questions, get those answers, and ask a follow-up question if you have any. The second way to do this at the other end of the AI spectrum is our app builder, which gives you the ability to add Gen AI calls into our workflow and document automation tool. So taking it beyond templates and variables with logic. So to get consistent results, you need to leverage workflow automation, not just AI. And there's a lot of answers that live in the content stored in your document management system that can be used to generate things like gold standard documents or clause banks, risk factors, key processes, or templates. And you could hope that people remember to use them, or you could embed them directly into the workflow, ensuring that they have consistent and better work product all the time. So knowing that not everybody was ready to build apps immediately, we've released a dozen pre-built legal apps that address high-value AI use cases. So these are just a couple of examples. You can go to studio.netdocuments.com if you want to see all 12. So first is using your precedent contract documents to create a playbook. So it will automatically create a playbook by extracting the best clauses that you have. It allows you to edit or add to that and then stores those in a database that you can use with other apps, such as our issues list generator. And that app compares your playbook to the third-party paper to make sure that you're compliant with your best practices. So it generates an issues list for you so you know what you need to negotiate or change in the documents. And then our Summarizer app gives you several different types of summaries. So things like deposition transcripts or medical records. That way you can tease out the specific type of information that you need in the desired format. And what's even better is all of these are fully customizable because you get the toolbox along with the specific tools. And as I said, you can access these in our studio along with some training information on how to do better prompting and things like that. So you've already got those apps. So what's next is background apps. And that's the ability to have an action within the system trigger an application that automatically runs. And so I'm talking about doing enrichment with background apps. So imagine if the actions that you take every day in your DMS are backed by AI and are enriching your experience. So for example, if uploading a document triggers AI to automatically classify and profile it, then that's going to enrich your knowledge recall later. Or if you profile a document as an NDA, then that triggers AI to run your playbook and determine if it's in compliance or what changes need to be made to it. Or it might recognize that you're doing due diligence on a set of contracts and automatically calculate and present you with a risk score for each one. Or by simply moving a document into a matter file, AI updates an ongoing case chronology. So this is what we're talking about when we say an intelligent DMS. It's having the AI and automation working for you behind the scenes, making your work and your experience richer. And we're going to continue moving and progressing forward with AI. We're going to be releasing semantic search later this year. So what does that do that are easy to use search functions that Nancy showed you don't already do? Simply put, it unlocks your content. So lexical search finds what you tell it to find, whereas semantic search finds what you meant to find. So let's take a search for indemnification clause, for example. Today, it's going to return any documents with just that exact phrase. But other phrases like liability protection or compensation for loss might be just as relevant. And by leveraging semantic search capabilities, then you can search based on the context or the meaning. And so what that's going to do for you is give you answers instead of links. So you'll enter your search using natural language. You're going to get an AI generated smart answer, be able to access those relevant documents where it got the answer, and read the highlighted text that was used to inform that smart answer. And so I know we had maybe a couple of questions and we're right up at time. If we don't have time for all the questions, we will send you answers individually by email.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we're happy to stay and answer questions if folks do want to hang on. So we'll have those as part of the recording as well.
Okay, yeah, I'll ask this. It looks like Jake and Nancy have been answering a little bit in the chat box back. So I'll ask this last one that came in and then we'll let everybody go. Andrea was asking, how are these apps accessed?
So a couple of different ways. Within the main NetDocuments home screen, there is an apps area at the top of the screen. But if you have apps that are going to be specific to specific types of matters that you have, there is also an apps tab within the matter workspace. So if I have, say, litigation apps that I don't want to, have everybody going through that whole list, I can have those show up in the matter, just the litigation apps, and not have all of the other apps cluttering up the area.
The apps are
And
definitely a game changer, and being able to access them directly within NetDocuments so that you never leave that workspace or you never leave the application in order to be able to perform these AI functions is, again, a huge differentiator.
What's also really cool is each of those apps has its own hyperlink. And so if I create, say, a matter intake app or something like that, I can send that by email. I can also post that on a web page if I want to put up some sort of a self-service kind of a solution as well.
Definitely helpful for personnel issues, for being able to locate documents or being able to work with the documents in order to fill out forms internally. It's great for being able to do that. It is also great, as Michelle pointed out, for being able to share.
Great. Thank you so much. I am going to go ahead and have us close out here. We're just a little bit over time already, but yes, Juan, the recording will be sent out. We'll send a link tomorrow to all registrants with the link to the recording. So if anything was missed, you'll be able to access it through that. Michelle, Nancy, Jake, thank you so much for everything today, all of this great information. We really appreciate it. And we also want to say thanks to Net Documents for sponsoring today's event. So Nancy, Michelle, Jake, do you have any final comments before I close us out?
We're happy to help in any way possible as far as decision making on your practice management, integration with Net Documents, or working with Net Documents itself. And we're very pleased. 3545 is very happy to have had this opportunity with the ALA and, of course, with a great sponsor, Net Documents.
Always happy to talk to folks at ALA.